show with no particular name. We're going live today because we just got the news that Disney World has raised some prices, and we want to go through those in great detail with you guys and see just what exactly is going on. My name is DB Mosley. I'm the co-founder of Laughing Place, and I am hosting this show with you. I will be joined very shortly by two other Laughing Place crew members, Benji Breitbart and Kyle Burbank, who are even more steeped in these details than I am. So just waiting one moment, making sure everything gets published properly, everything gets socialed properly, and then we will bring them on and talk about exactly what these changes are, maybe go a little bit into behind why these changes are, what it might mean for the future, what it might mean in the context of the company as a whole. So okay. Sorry, within 1 second. Back with you in 1 second. Like I said, we're just a couple minutes. We're going to have the rest of the team on to talk about exactly what is happening. Sorry about that. Live video is often fun. I asked you a question. Please answer it. Some price increases announced this morning. We're going to go through it in just a moment. Just got to make a quick change to some of our stuff. And then I will bring on the CEO of this thing we call Laughing Place. And we will go through it with you. All right. Good morning, Broken Jeremiah. Good morning, Geo. You guys waking up to the same news we are. I'm going to bring on the CEO right now. This is Benji Breitbart. And say Kyle will be here in a moment. He's the one that always gets really deep into stuff, and we'll go through it in great detail with Benji. But right now, he's making sure he gets up on the website. How you doing, Ben?
Good. How are you?
Good. So to make a correction for anyone that saw our initial push alert, Walt Disney World announces price increases this morning. The prices did not go up this morning, so we definitely want to be completely accurate on that. All right. So Benji, Kyle's not here yet, but you are. So why don't you start going through what exactly happened?
So they're basically, it's more complicated than just raising prices. I mean, although, well, most tickets will be increased, not all.
That's the headline.
Right. I know, but I would say what makes it interesting is Disney World increases prices all the time. What makes it interesting in this case is the way they went about it, particularly if you're looking at it through a reservation lens. But effective December 8th, they're going for one day, one park tickets. They will be going to park specific pricing. So what that means is Animal Kingdom will be $109 to $159, which is what it is today. What all the parks are today. Epcot will be going to $114 to $179. Hollywood Studios $124 to $179. Magic Kingdom $124 to $189. With specifically that $189 point being for the week between Christmas and New Year's inclusive. Previously there used to be a Magic Kingdom Premium, but now they're going to that kind of went away in order to simplify pricing and one of their things. But now they're not simplifying pricing. So that's the change to the day tickets. Also, the tickets will now come with a reservation, similar to Disneyland. So when you buy a ticket, obviously because the pricing is included for that park, it comes with the reservation kind of preloaded.
How did this work currently? You would buy a ticket for a certain time frame and then had to get a reservation?
Right. So you had to check the calendar before let's say you really wanted to go to Epcot. You had to check the calendar before you bought the ticket. Disneyland switched to this kind of system previously. I mean, not the park-based pricing, but where you would kind of buy a ticket with a reservation included a bit ago. So this is kind of bringing that in line in one way.
Answer to your question. So, as Ben mentioned, they did have Magic Kingdom pricing and the rest. They've never had park specific beyond that, right?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think one of the things they did was they raised Magic Kingdom pricing, and then at one point, in order to raise prices, they kind of just use the excuse as we're bringing them all to Magic Kingdom pricing, and now they're doing it again. If you've been around Disney long enough, just wait and it'll go back to the way it was before.
Because this is complicated. I mean, well, we're not even done with the complications. Why don't you keep going?
So also the park hopping pricing will now be seasonal. So that used to be an add-on that was consistently priced. So now it will be, based off of the time of year you're going. Probably, it makes a little bit of sense, as in like, so you don't want someone to go buy a $109 Animal Kingdom ticket, but really just buy it instead of getting a $189 Magic Kingdom ticket, because there's no sort of reservation for the second park you go to or beyond. So I think that if you're going to kind of raise prices in one way, it kind of makes sense that park hopper doesn't kind of proportionally stays the same.
Have they given any specific numbers for the park hopping prices?
They have not. They said all this will be available December 8th. Also, the new pricing for multi-day tickets will be available on December 8th. It kind of came across as, because this will require some training and some technology changes, that they wanted to get ahead of this. Normally, they would announce this, the day of. But I think, because, leaks are coming out, it was a way to kind of get ahead of the story before they had to kind of explain this to everybody that would need to be involved. They did issue a statement, which we should share. We continue to focus on providing guests with the best, most memorable Disney experience, and we're doing that by growing our theme parks with incredible new attractions and offerings. We are also making planning easier with new one-day tickets that automatically include a guest theme park reservation, and continue to provide a wide range of options to visit throughout the year, including our lowest price ticket of $109, which has not changed in more than 4 years.
That's something. I mean, if you can go to a Disney theme park a time of the year for $109 and been able to for the past 4 years, that's money on the table.
I mean, it's funny though. I mean, I would say like, sure, but at the same time, 2 of those years were.
Excellent point.
The other thing, I think what was interesting was, I mean, I'm looking at this from a big picture standpoint too, which maybe I shouldn't, but there was always this sort of desire to have a certain amount of Disney experiences in any park relative to the crowd at a park, in order to make sure people felt they got their value for the day. So while Magic Kingdom always had more, it was also more popular. So you still got on a few more rides because it was the Magic Kingdom, but it was the idea is you still, if you went to Animal Kingdom, you still felt like you got a full day. And so Animal Kingdom did a lot of initiatives because of its sort of minimal program to kind of make guests feel like they had a full day there. So they would do scavenger hunts and things like that. So now you're removing the need to make the parks all feel like you're getting the same value. Because if you're paying less for Animal Kingdom, you don't need to feel like you got a Magic Kingdom day's worth of stuff.
Do you think that will manifest itself in fewer things at these other parks?
Well, I think what will happen is you'll probably get less of the sort of short-term fixes for that, maybe less entertainment, maybe less sort of, Wilderness Explorer type things that were really kind of put in to kind of fill that out. Hollywood Studios before Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land was kind of infamous for this. They would open like Pirate Jack's, whatever that thing was called, or whatever, Lightning McQueen, things that are not e-ticket rides, which is something so you felt like you got on something. But what it does do is it sort of incentivizes the park to add more, to become a fuller destination long-term so that they can raise prices. So maybe it does mean Animal Kingdom is going to get an investment so that they can go up to a 120, go from a 109 price point to a 124 price point. I mean, it's not lost on me that Magic Kingdom, as the most expensive park, is adding a new coaster, which is additive. It's not replacing anything, which really kind of makes them, in terms of quantity leaps and bounds over any of their other parks.
So, and before we go on to the other increase, I just want to quickly show again, we know we've had some people coming on who are just joining us. The big news is that the price per theme park, a one-day theme park price will vary not only by season, as it has for quite a while, or not even by season, but just by day even. It will vary by park. So Animal Kingdom will be the least expensive park to get into, followed by Epcot. Disney's Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom will be the most expensive park. So the one-day ticket can vary from $109 for a severe off-season at Animal Kingdom to $189 for a severe high season at the Magic Kingdom. The second headline is that the price of a park hopper will vary seasonally. It's not just going to be a flat rate as it is currently. And the third increase, I'm going to bring on Kyle to talk about. Kyle.
Can I bring up one point too?
Sorry. Bye, Kyle. Go ahead.
So, no, I just want to bring in that if you want to go apples to apples, you would essentially also add on the Genie Plus price, and which is now also demand based. So you went from, Magic Kingdom being, let's say, $60 to Magic Kingdom possibly being over $200. Since they started the sort of aggressive price increase plan.
I know Genie Plus price varies by day. Does it already vary by park?
It does not vary by park
yet.
Yeah.
Although the thing I'm wondering also with this before we move on to the annual passes is, you guys might have already mentioned this, but it's one day. So I wonder if it's going to stick to a date is just these tiers, or if that 114 for Epcot is really deceptive because it's going to be the 12 days a year where there's actually no festival. But parks, but maybe during like food and wine, it's actually a food and wine weekend might be an Epcot tier might be higher than the other park tiers or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I would expect that. I would not expect the parks to necessarily be on the same calendars.
So you could see like the opening day of food and wine being higher than whatever the Magic Kingdom price is that day.
Right. I mean, especially, if you're looking at like opening days of attractions or things like that, when it would make sense that at Hollywood Studio, or even if you look at Magic Kingdom on a party night, if you're charging $189 for a party night, I mean, they're not, but, versus, Hollywood Studios on the same day, that might be a different.
Well, it's going to be great when they do the premium charge for the opening day of attraction, only for you not to get the virtual queue. That's going to really make some happy guests. Interesting here, if you look at both Epcot and Hollywood Studios have the same maximum price, but a different minimum price, or whatever that's worth. That's interesting to me. All right, Kyle, what is the other price increase that got announced this morning?
So annual pass prices are going up, but if you don't have an annual pass currently, you won't notice because they're not for sale. And if you're a Florida resident, then you won't even see it on your Walt Disney World homepage because, again, it's for Florida residents only and it's not for sale. So
are none of the four park passes for sale right
the
now?
Pixie Dust Pass is the only one that's available. That's also the only one that's not seeing a price change, but it is a Florida resident exclusive. So if you're not a Florida resident, there are no annual pass options for you currently.
And so the Pixie Dust Pass, the price is not changing. It's still $399. Go through the other three, Kyle.
So you have the Pirate Pass, which is also Florida resident only. That one's going to $749 from $640 or $699. The Sorcerer Pass is available to Florida residents and DVC members. That one's going to be $969 now, whereas it was $899. And the Incredipass, which anyone can have, but not right now, is $1399 plus tax, as opposed to $1299. But all your discounts still apply. Your renewal discount still applies. So all of these prices are not exactly what you'll be paying if you're already a pass holder, because you'll get that renewal discount, and the only people getting these are renewing them.
I am slightly comforted that they bothered to announce price increases for passes that are not currently available, that maybe these actually will become available at some point again in the future.
That's optimistic.
Yeah, I would because the renewal is a percentage discount. So, right? Like, so you still got to raise the base price to increase the renewal price. Otherwise,
don't take away my optimism, guys. Come on. 6 a.m. out here on the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, when Disney kind of briefed us on this, it did not sound like the return was imminent.
Yeah.
There's no need. They can just keep raising other prices and making all the money they need.
And
I mean,
also
I'd like
just
to point out, I mean, based on watching my LPTV, it doesn't seem like Disney World is still having a demand problem. So, that's until people stop going, this is what happens.
And you can, if you have a current pass, you can renew into any of them that presumably that apply to you. So if you wanted to upgrade or downgrade and you qualify to upgrade or downgrade, or to downgrade really, you can do so.
So first of all, I always like to check, the market hasn't even opened yet this morning, but the stock market, Disney and pre-market, is up 2.35% on this news. No, just kidding. But it is slightly up, as is the market.
We're not that powerful. I know Carl follows us, but
no. But Disney, the performance of the Disney company as a whole has really been under a microscope since the earnings report. Was it 1 week ago? Tomorrow, I think. And so, Ben, maybe we haven't talked to you since after the earnings report, and then Chapek I know we talked to you on that day, but then the next day Chapek was at Paley and said some things, and then the layoffs got announced. Sorry, the hiring freeze got announced, the layoffs got reported. Just can we get your thoughts on the Walt Disney Company?
I mean, I'd be lying to say I'm not worried. It's not the right word, because I'm not worried. I don't think they're doing things the right way. And the more you think about it, the more kind of upsetting it is, because, Disney is always built on optimism for the future. Even when there's been layoffs in the past, it's been about, okay, well, we're laying off this group, but we're going to invest in this group, right? There's something to look forward to. A blunt corporate-wide hiring freeze just means there's no growth, because you can't, unless you just put more work on people, which is not something I think is possible considering how short-staffed Disney was. It is. There's no one to do it, right? All these things about integrating Disney technology with Disney Plus, like, who's going to do that? They didn't hire those people yet. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to still build new attractions or make new shows or things like that, because that's a kind of different bucket. But the pace isn't going to increase. It's not like suddenly we're going to get a whole new theme park announced, because there's no one to do that.
If I have to ask you a question, so the company came in just over half. Its profits were just over half of what was expected by Wall Street, which is obviously a huge disappointment. The Disney Plus losses were humongous. But Chapek, I thought, gave some good explanation. He said, there was a backlog of stuff that had been greenlit that had to be put on hold for the pandemic. Pandemic's over. And that seemed, obviously, sure, it seemed like a good explanation. So I was really surprised then to see this come down.
Well, but that's the thing is, okay, you knew what it was. You knew what the earnings were. It's not like they show up on the day of and go like, oh, wow, here's the report. It means they're not us. So you're saying, okay, the earnings will, they lost more than Wall Street expected. Fine. But then to react to what Wall Street feels, the stock price is getting tanked.
Well, that's a good question. Is that what you believe this was? This isn't something that's been in the works for weeks and weeks as they try to reduce costs. You think this was a reaction to Wall Street?
I think the severity and the announcement of it was a reaction to Wall Street. I don't know. They should always be looking at efficiencies and ways to cut costs. That should be an ongoing process. And there's no question that when you launch Disney Plus, you throw everything at it. And then now that it's normalized, now that you're not launching it, you should reduce costs. There should be less marketing spent. But to say no travel, to say no, a complete hiring freeze, that's not just sort of adjusting costs. That's reacting. And to make it public, it's not like someone at Disney just happened to get the memo. CNBC got the memo for a reason. They're the reasons they broke the news, right? Is because someone sent it to them to affect Wall Street.
But because they did it that way, do they actually have to do the things that they say they're going to do? Since they didn't Put in an SEC announcement.
Well, I mean, they have. I mean, as far as my understanding is, they have frozen travel. They have done a hiring freeze. So what ends up now, they could sort of unfreeze and turn back to normal without having made any major cuts. But in order for that to actually fly, they're going to need to have a rapid reversal of Disney Plus economics. Now, we don't know what the new pricing and the new ad tier will do to the cost. I mean, to the metric, but it will, until unless that dramatically changes things, which it could. I don't see how they don't, because they're going to be asked that. Like, so how much did you have in cost savings? If they say, nothing, they're just going to look even more ineffective because they did a cost saving plan and they got nothing out of it.
Let me ask you another question. So the letter, and you can read this letter on Laughing Place. This was a memo sent to the kind of the leaders of the various divisions that got leaked and is all over the place.
I wouldn't even say leaked. I would just say
released.
Shared.
Okay. Specifically mentions a hiring freeze and a cut on travel and a cut on trade shows and such, but it doesn't actually mention, as I recall, cutting back any layoffs. And yet the stories out there do. Can you?
No, it does say layoffs.
Okay, it does?
Because job losses will be expected or something.
My mistake. Maybe my mistake was searching for the word layoff instead of job loss. Okay.
Yeah, and I will say, obviously Disney is subject to the WARN Act, so any sort of layoff over a certain number would need to be reported in advance. So those are not imminent. However, a hiring freeze is effectively a way to lay people off because they're not filling positions come up open naturally.
It's a way to cut back on headcount, but that's still, at least for the poor people who are working, different than saying you no longer have a job.
Sure, but what it does, it's not different too, is they say we cut X number of jobs. That would be included in that. That doesn't mean number of jobs and number of people are not the same.
Right. Absolutely. And speaking of layoffs, Disney is not in a bubble here. There is a much bigger trend of layoffs, at least in the tech industry, going on. Amazon just announced 10,000. Meta's done some. So Twitter, I believe, laid off 110% of their workforce.
Hey, Disney is never happening is basically what we're
I can't believe, total aside, Amazon laid off 10% of their workforce, not warehouse workers or delivery drivers. We're talking corporate people. I'm sorry, not 10,000. 10,000 people, which was what, like 13% of their workforce, I think?
No, 1%. It was 1%.
It was 1% of their entire workforce.
And 3% of their corporate workforce.
3% of their corporate workforce is 10,000 people. I'm no expert, but that really feels like bloat. What do? You take an order, you deliver order. It's not that complicated. All right. And this is why I'm sitting here and,
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of their cuts came from their Alexa group, or whatever they want to call it.
The best product they have and the future of Disney. Mike Farnham, told by a CM that I trust that if this affects upper management, they are still hiring workers. This hiring freeze does not apply to cast members as we think of
this
them.
Does not apply to frontline operational cast members. Absolutely not. I mean,
they're probably still short staffed there, I would think.
Sure. But what I mean, I don't want to use the term hourly because there's plenty of hourly people that this does impact, but this is not the one, the ones that you're interacting with the park on a daily basis. This is not impact because they still need to staff those attractions. It also doesn't it doesn't apply to sort of operational necessary roles. So for example, I'll just take a news example. ABC News, they can still hire producers to produce the show, but that's it. Like that's all they're hiring is basically the people that actually have to put the show together. So, they're not hiring new reporters or anything like that.
And Kyle, you are our managing editor here, so pretty much everything that goes on Laughing Place goes by your eye. So let's get your thoughts on what's going on with the Disney company corporate financially over the past few days.
Oh, it's just been so much fun. Well, no, I think my big takeaway is that, we ran the headline about Jim Cramer kind of turning on Chapek and, there's lots of glee in thinking that, Chapek's in trouble where he's going to get replaced. But then if you look at the reasons why, I think it's actually more concerning for Disney fans. Like if this is the guy who's the bean counter and the cost cutter and just trying to milk every dollar, then I don't know what is going to come after that if he gets let go. And I've heard arguments that it's like this could be a response, like people aren't going to Walt Disney World because of these things. It's like, well, no, that's too soon. That could happen in a couple of years where people are like, I'm fed up with being nickel and dime. But this is fourth quarter of this year. If you look at the parks, like you were saying, there's not a demand problem. So this is on top of that. They're still having, according to Wall Street, issues with cost cutting and making money. So I think that's concerning for Disney fans for a number of reasons.
I think it's important to note that you have basically Disney has two divisions. You have Josh D'Amaro, who runs DPAP, which is they're performing great, right?
Disney Park Experience and products,
right? And then you have Kareem Daniel, who runs DMED, which is basically Disney stuff with a screen. I'm not talking like PhilharMagic, like stuff you watch at home.
Wouldn't it be great if PhilharMagic technically was under that division? Because they say you create the content and then you decide where to put it. We decided to put it in Fantasyland.
That would be an extreme version of what. Yeah, that is the way they do it. And Kareem Daniel was always viewed as like sort of Bob's protege, and his is the division that seemed to have misguided Wall Street at best. I think this is sort of a Wall Street fault problem, because we knew these numbers were essentially going to be what they were. They were just bigger than they thought. So, but they haven't given Disney a chance to pivot.
I knew my weight was going to be essentially what it was. I just didn't know it was going to be 4,000.
No, but we knew that the losses were going to be big. They just were bigger, right?
But that's scary, though. Yeah, we expect we're building Disney Plus. We expect it to
be like showing up for Genie Plus, be like, well, I thought it was going to be $8, but it was really $15.
Because of that, you have to question Kareem's here because his whole job is not to make content, it's to monetize it and make sure they get the most money out of it, right? And so if he's not able to manage that, then if Bob goes, who replaces him? And it's not somebody Disney fans, I think, are going to necessarily want.
There's no question,
I think the whole entertainment industry shot themselves in the foot by focusing so much on streaming that they basically burned down theatrical. Look how much Black Panther made in just a weekend, that if it went straight to Disney Plus, it wouldn't have made. And
how many more Disney Plus subscribers would we have had?
Zero. How many people are like, how many Marvel fans are like, oh no, I need to subscribe consistently. I'm not talking about 1 month, like consistently, because they can watch Black Panther 90 days or 45 days earlier.
I would love the sliding doors where we see how much Black Panther makes with, what did they call it, premium access or whatever?
Premier access. Yeah.
Premier access. It would be fun just to know. We'll never know, but because I think they've pretty much dropped that, right? Since theaters are back.
I would have been able to see the movie if it was on Premier access.
Well,
I still haven't seen it.
Me either, because somebody sent my wife to Florida and I can't see it without her. Couple more questions I wanted to ask regarding the financial situation. Disney
do we want to talk about the dining thing?
I am. Don't worry. But we're still here. We'll save the good news for last. Thank you so much. So we save super chats for first. Iger doubled down on streaming, China, and overspent $70 billion on Fox. How much blame does Iger get in the current? So it's funny. Chapek's been trending, but when I click that link, it's a lot of people saying this is all Iger's fault and poor Chapek has to clean it up. Let's hear. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, the hindsight being what it was is, I mean, now a lot of those things are impacted severely by COVID. We can't really understand what would have happened if COVID didn't exist. But the decisions Iger made in the last year were last year before he picked Bob Chapek did not set up Bob Chapek for success. However, the excessive pivot to streaming, the sort of bad fan relations, or actually not even say fan relations, like bad PR, just even with Wall Street or talent or basically everybody. It wasn't him. And the sort of aggressive pricing up at the parks as we're coming out of this was a Chapek decision. Now, I don't know. Now, I'm not saying all those decisions are bad, but I think that's what you give to Chapek. Having a weak balance sheet, which is causing a lot of the strife, that's Iger's fault. But how you've reacted to that, and I would say the overreaction it would be Chapek's fault, because Bob Iger had enough respect in Wall Street that he'd be like, no, wait, trust me. And they would wait and trust him. Chapek doesn't have that.
So you earned that though. Bob Iger didn't have that on day one.
Right. That. But Bob didn't care, but Bob had the sense to ignore Wall Street. Like, just know that when they bought Pixar and they said for $7 billion, Wall Street was like, you're not buying anything. There's nothing there. Like, it's just, stuff you own all the movies already. Like, what are you buying? But Bob was like, no, we need this to like have a pipeline for Disney Animation and Pixar moving forward. And obviously ended up being the model for, pick Marvel, Lucasfilm, etc. So if he had listened to Wall Street, that deal would have never happened. And to me, the most worrying sign about this is I feel a big chunk of this and the way it is being done is to appease Wall Street, because as I said, I have no problems with layoffs. I mean, that's just an unfortunate part of the, running a company, but to do it before you're ready to do it, essentially creating months of sort of anxiety at the company is unfortunate. And
speaking of anxiety at the company, how, to the extent you guys are connected, how's morale within the company?
I have no connections.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that $71 billion bought him the unrivaled synergy machine of the Walt Disney Company.
Apple.
I think the challenge too is that because that memo did not specifically say DPEP is fine, and DPEP, I'm sure there'll still be cuts at the parks, but they're not going to be as aggressive as in the entertainment, which is losing the money. But
that's why it's just the generic Adventureland tree.
I mean,
save money on gaming.
You see people online who maybe aren't as savvy go like, my niece just got a job working Pirates, like, and she just moved down there. She's going to lose her job. Like, she's not losing her job, but people don't know that, and so it just, because this memo was written in such a way to appease Wall Street, it is not very specific and causes even more anxiety than it.
Now, you worked for Disney. What is it like in the company, on a football team, when you've got a great defense and a bad offense and you're losing? There's some finger pointing. What's it like when you work for DPEP that is doing Buffo and you're being dragged down by Disney Plus, which is losing more than expected, and the cuts are therefore affecting you?
Remember Thank Shanghai?
Well, I think it's not as bad as it probably would have been had we not had the pandemic, because the streaming essentially paid for the rest of the company, even though it lost money. It still allowed the company to exist while the parks were shut down. I mean, there was no end. So I think the cyclical understanding of that the two businesses might offset each other at various points is more prevalent. And not all layoffs are bad. I hate to say that because it affects people, but sometimes you do need to become more nimble when the company gets bloated and you can't get anything done because there's 12 people instead of one guy. But it's when they're done in this way by an unforced error. I think people understood when the layoffs came out during COVID, because there was COVID, and that wasn't Disney's fault, and they needed to kind of right size it. I mean, obviously, there's always people who are going to be upset, and always people are going to be cheery, no matter what. But I think when this is done as a company misjudged, your company misjudged how much to spend on streaming, it gets, it's unfortunate, and I think Bob's right. I mean, Bob, they basically had a backlog that kind of all came out, right? And like, you're not going to just start canceling things just because,
Hope not.
the quarter it hits. But what I think is frustrating is the ability of Disney to communicate that. And I mean, just saying, really doing the hard work of managing expectations and getting out ahead of it. If they had conveyed what it was going to be earlier, it wouldn't have been such a kick, because what happens is Wall Street says, oh no, this is unexpected. Therefore, what else unexpected is going to come? Whereas if they say, oh, we knew this was going to happen, it's priced into it, and maybe happens more gradual, and they know they had a heads up. Bob Iger was very clear when he said, people are starting to cut the cord, and Disney stock got hit, but it wasn't a shock because he was upfront about it.
It's that whole thing of Wall Street expectation versus reality, when where else would they get that expectation from the company, is something I actually don't understand and don't need to understand now, but I'd love to someday. 2 more corporate questions, then we'll do a recap of the increases and talk about the good news that came out this morning. Apple, there's been some rumors going around that Apple might be interested in acquiring Disney. Thoughts?
I think you want to be careful, and that's just sort of conjecture. There's no that's not reporting. That's just, there's thoughts that Disney did invest in streaming so they could get value like a tech company. Then what happened is Netflix stopped being valued as a tech company when the growth disappeared. Now tech companies are starting to stop being valued as tech companies as their growth is disappearing. So I don't know, the last week has probably changed that calculus a lot, but the question is is streaming going to be a strategic value to somebody else who has a different reason to be in it, like Apple, who is selling devices and services, versus just being, the core business?
Didn't Iger say that if Steve Jobs were alive, he saw Apple at Disney getting together? But Steve Jobs is not alive, and Iger's not in charge. So.
Right. And I mean, there was a time when they were very aligned, right? Like, I mean, Pixar obviously came from Steve Jobs. A significant part of Disney was based in, the Bay Area with Lucasfilm and Pixar. It's all kind of George Lucas connection. I mean, they do have a sort of a common history in many ways, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's, maybe has a 3% chance of happening. It's not going to happen necessarily, but I wouldn't expect it.
Okay. And then the final question on this whole corporate stuff before we recap. Benji will be a fly. No, he won't be. But if he were a fly on the wall in the upcoming Disney Board of Directors meeting, what would he hear? And when is this meeting?
Okay, so this is going to get super complicated, but it's important. So the reason that Bob Chapek is probably running a little scared is there's Dan Loeb has an investment firm called Third Point, who got a significant stake in Disney and was sort of threatening to kind of take over, provide Disney their direction on how to run their business. Because if one thing I've learned in my 20 years watching Disney business is investors always know what to do. But they made a deal basically where they will add on this sort of Dan Loeb approved director to the board, and he won't do anything until the 2024 shareholder meeting. So this is her first board meeting, is coming up on the 21st. And it'll be interesting to see what her perspective is and what they do to change. Now, it might not come right, it might not mean there's a press release coming out November 21st, but this is basically the first board meeting in a long time where the board is not completely driven by their own sort of team. They brought in somebody. Now, who they, officially have selected, but has definitely been approved. I mean, even in the press release announcing Carol Everson, you know how always on press releases it says like who to contact. It had Disney's contact and then had Third Point Capital's contact. So it's like a joint press release. So I don't know. You know, she's there for a reason. I don't know what it's going to be. I'd love to be. I mean, I imagine a lot of board of directors meetings are pretty rubber stamp. At least when Bob Iger was, you know, in charge. This one would be very interesting to see what her perspective is, and if she's able to win over other people on the board as it already exists.
My dog is bored with you, apparently. Sorry.
Did you tell your dog it's super complicated but really important?
Well, I should tell her that Benji should have written that press release then, because I didn't notice that and didn't include that in our article. And now he's like, this is super important. We're all like, okay. And then doesn't actually tell us why.
Well, I was traveling somewhere. What did we not include?
Oh, I don't know if we knew what the whole Jeff Loeb aspect of because in the press release, I don't know if it said that.
It did say it in the press release. I think it was in our story.
All right. Maybe it is.
Trust yourself, Kyle. All right. So enough with Disney corporate talk. It's endlessly exciting, especially when we have the CEO here. But let's do a quick recap. Kyle, as the man who wrote the articles, really quick, let's go through the changes announced today, and then we'll get to the good news.
So yes, announced today, but this particular change won't take place until December 8th. Walt Disney World is moving to park. The price of a one-day, one-park ticket will vary by what park you want to go to. So Disney's Animal Kingdom on most days will start at the cheapest price, that range being $109 to $159. Epcot's range $114 to $179. Hollywood Studios $124 to $179, and Magic Kingdom $124 to $189. Although that $189 top tier is going to be like the absolute busiest days between Christmas and New Year's, basically.
Okay, and the reservation.
Yes, as I noted there, this isn't the first time. Remember, Magic Kingdom used to cost $5 more than the other parks, so not groundbreaking, but it's still a significant change nonetheless. Parks reservations are going to be included when you make these one-day tickets now. Right now at Disneyland, if you book a one-day ticket, you select which park you're going to go to, and that is also your reservation. So now Disney World is catching up with that. And then price the park hopper, which is going to be for one day and for multi-days, it's going to be, the ad. So when you see, it's a little bit misleading because when you see the ticket price, you're like, okay, that's what it is. But there's actually a formula. It's the one day, it's the normal price and then an add-on. So that add-on price is now also going to vary. So instead of just being like a $70 add-on, it could be higher than that depending on demand, basically.
And that affects both one-day and multi-day tickets.
Yes.
I believe annual passes already include a park hopper. Okay, and speaking of annual passes, what's going on there?
Annual passes are increasing. Most of these passes are not available for new customers at this time. So most of these are just going to be renewals. But the Pixie Dust Pass, which is a Florida resident only and is the only one that's currently available for new sales, is not changing at $399 plus tax. Pirate Pass is going up to $749. Sorcerer's Pass is going to be $969, and Incredipass is going to be $1399. But you do get a renewal discount. So all of those will be slightly discounted because the only people getting those passes will be renewing them.
I was not aware that when you renew, you can renew into a different level at Walt Disney World. I mean, I'm in Incredipass. I'm not a Florida resident, so it's obvious. But for me, I don't have a choice. But
exactly, that's kind of the trick there. If you're a Florida resident, you can have your pick. But
so if you're a Florida resident and you really want an Incredipass, the idea is you buy a Pixie Dust Pass, wait a year, and then get an Incredipass. So is it like a
blowhole? No, a loophole.
Yeah. Wow. Loophole. It's like your initiation year, and then I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I presume it's possible. I don't see any reason why it's not. And that is there currently an annual pass available, a Magic Key available at the Disneyland Resort?
Just for renewals.
Just for renewals. So the only way to get a North American theme park annual pass is to get a Pixie Dust Pass if you're a Florida resident.
Not the only way.
Is there another way?
There's another way we're not going to talk about.
Okay. Now I'm so curious.
There are. I mean, we can talk about it. Obviously, if you are a member of Club 33,
are they accepting walk-ups these days?
they're not accepting walk-ups, but you could join the list and get
so
referred.
If you can't walk up and get one, then you can't get it. You will wait.
Someone
you can refer me, and I can buy one now if I know a member.
If you know a member, the member could refer you. You could join Club 33 and then get.
So referrals don't have a wait list. All right. If you are a member,
I'm not saying that. There is no wait list. It's referral based only.
If anyone out there
is
a member of Club 33, I am a person in good standing. I will not embarrass you. Please refer me so I can get Club 33. And also, please loan me the money to join. All right. And finally, there is good.
Of course, Doobie has a great history with these sort of things. So he's going to think he's getting a Club 33 membership, and he's going to end up with a reservation at Steakhouse 71. So,
Kyle, the good news.
Good news. You can cancel dining reservations. You have, as long as you do it at least 2 hours before. At most places, you will not be charged a cancellation fee. It was usually $10 if you didn't call, and that was the day before you had to cancel it, right?
Yeah, it was the day before.
So now you have all the way up to 2 hours, so you can spend more time doing your lightning lane.
Now, I feel like there's a pro tip for avoiding a cancellation fee. Can I say that, or is that like?
Well, it's kind of moot now, isn't it?
Well, no. Sometimes it's not even 2 hours isn't enough. Okay, I'll lay off the pro tip. It's nothing nefarious, but it's just kind of shifting around. Anyway,
there's no change fee. There's only a cancellation fee.
Great point, Kyle. Great point. All right. Anything else we should mention here before we close?
It's unrelated, but I mean, it's sort of fun news. Is now you can, as of this morning, Strange World tickets are available on sale. So if you can't afford to go to the park, you can go to a movie.
That should fix all the financial issues.
Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, on a fiscal perspective, it'll be interesting to see if how that movie does. Because the question is, obviously, Black Panther Wakanda Forever did fantastic, but will a family movie has that business returned to theaters?
Yeah, Disney, they just don't have the cachet to pull off a family movie. I don't think that's really in their wheelhouse. So we shall see.
Regarding Gio's question, it might be. I mean, they've kind of changed it over the time, but they introduced their new annual passes in September of last year, so it's a little over a year since then.
Yeah, the change in sort of when passes went on sale is kind of thrown off the traditional price increase calendar. Also,
Disneyland used to raise ticket prices in February, and they just did it last month or whenever that was.
They did not raise prices while they were closed.
Which we should applaud. Because they are patting themselves on the back for that.
As far as we know, Shanghai Disneyland also has not increased prices this week.
Inappropriate?
It's not inappropriate. It's closed.
It's closed.
I know. And to make that. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us as we discuss this huge news coming up this morning. Breaking news. We need a flashing banner. We really do. Breaking news. If you want to talk more about this kind of stuff, as well as everything else that's happening with the company yesterday and today, you want to tune into the kickoff show today at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Yes, it does bug me that a kickoff show happens at 1 p.m. on the East Coast, but
$15 today. You can see it on your home screen.
That's a bargain. So that's exclusively on Laughing Place TV, laughingplace.com/TV. We'll be recapping these very price increases. I'm also going to be scouring the socials because I'm sure we have some very understanding comments on Twitter that I would like to share with the audience here.
I saw at Bob Chapek, a verified blue checkmark account, had a lot of interesting things to say.
I like that they have official under now. Is that their
that keeps coming and going.
Okay. So that's coming up in about 3 hours. Kickoff show on laughingplace.com/TV. And then tonight at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern, we will have Disney Trivia Live. Also, I think, today at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 Eastern, we have Barely Necessities, the Disney merchandise show, where they will talk about nothing but good news, no corporate speak whatsoever. They put the P in DPEP, the second one. So Disney Barely Necessities.
We need to write down all the taglines for these different shows. It's trivia sometimes. We put the P into the second one.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. At the risk of covering up Kyle, I got to do a quick little promo here. Please join us at Left. No,
Yeah, just
be
come
better.
on with you. There you go.
Better. All right. Please join us, laughingways.com/TV. First 24/7 Disney News channel. It's on right now. If you were to tune in there right now, you know what you would see? This very show, because we simulcast all our live shows there. But in between, we have tons of fun stuff, wait times, breaking news, fun videos from the past and the present. You can see previews of all the great Christmas stuff we put up there, along with the handy dandy QR code to see the whole thing. You can see some retro commercials and trailers, like the Ducky commercial is on there. It got Geo in the fields yesterday. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see y'all later.